I'm Jessica Mitchell, 28 years old, and I've been staring at my phone for 20 minutes, waiting for my father's response. My wedding to Michael is only 3 months away, and I just received the text that shattered my heart. I can't walk you down the aisle, Jessie. Amber's birthday celebration is that day. My sister has hated me for as long as I can remember, but this betrayal cuts deeper than anything before. How could my own father choose her party over my wedding day? If you're watching this from somewhere with complicated family relationships too, I'd love to know where you're from. Hit that like and subscribe button before I dive into the family drama that almost ruined the most important day of my life. Growing up in our suburban Boston neighborhood, my childhood seemed normal on the surface. We lived in a blue colonial house with white trim, had a golden retriever named Buddy, and took summer vacations to Cape Cod. But beneath that picture-perfect facade, there were cracks that would eventually split our family apart. When I was 13 and Amber was 16, our parents divorced. Mom moved to California for a job opportunity, leaving Dad to raise two teenage girls on his own. The physical distance between us and Mom grew into an emotional one as well. She called regularly and visited when she could, but it wasn't the same. Dad became our primary parent, and that's when the differences in how he treated us became impossible to ignore. Amber was always Dad's favorite. She was outgoing and athletic like him, while I was quieter and more studious. When Amber made the cheerleading squad, Dad attended every football game. When I won the science fair, he was too busy with work to attend the ceremony. These little rejections piled up over the years, creating a mountain of hurt I tried desperately to ignore. But the real problem wasn't just Dad's favoritism, it was how Amber weaponized it. She seemed to develop a deep-seated resentment toward me that I never fully understood. Maybe she blamed me somehow for our parents' divorce, or perhaps she felt threatened by my academic achievements. Whatever the reason, Amber made it her mission to undermine me at every opportunity. Take my high school graduation, for instance. I was valedictorian, something that should have been celebrated. Mom flew in from California especially for the occasion. The night before, when I was practicing my speech in my bedroom, Amber accidentally spilled cranberry juice all over my white graduation dress. I stayed up until 3 a.m. trying to remove the stain, only partially succeeding. In all the graduation photos, you can still see the faint pink splotch on my right shoulder. It was just an accident, Jessica, Dad said when I tried to explain what had happened. Don't be so dramatic. Not everything is about you. That was his response to everything Amber did. When she accidentally deleted my college application essays from our shared computer the night before they were due, forcing me to rewrite them from memory. When she spread rumors among our mutual friends that I had cheated on my high school boyfriend, causing half of them to stop speaking to me. When she borrowed my car without permission and returned it with an empty gas tank and a dent in the fender. Always accidents. Never her fault. And I was always being too sensitive or making a big deal out of nothing. I tried so hard to understand what drove Amber's hostility. I invited her to coffee, suggested shopping trips, offered to help her with college applications when she was struggling. Every attempt at connection was either rejected outright or accepted only to be used as an opportunity to hurt me later. Eventually, I stopped trying. Meanwhile, I was constantly attempting to earn Dad's approval. I kept my grades perfect. I helped around the house without being asked. I listened to his work stories with genuine interest. I never gave him any reason to be disappointed in me. Yet somehow, in his eyes, I always fell short of Amber. After high school, I went to nursing school and built a career as a pediatric nurse at Boston Children's Hospital. I loved my work, found purpose in helping children and their families navigate difficult times. Amber, meanwhile, bounced between jobs, never seeming to find her footing. She'd work somewhere for a few months, then quit because her boss was out to get her or her coworkers were jealous. Dad always supported her, financially and emotionally, through these transitions. When I suggested once that maybe Amber needed to develop some perseverance, Dad accused me of being unsupportive and competitive. I met Michael 3 years ago in the hospital cafeteria. He was a pediatric surgeon, brilliant but humble, with kind eyes and a quiet sense of humor that matched my own. We bonded over our shared dedication to our young patients, often discussing cases and supporting each other through difficult outcomes. Our relationship evolved naturally from colleagues to friends to something deeper. Michael understood my family dynamics without me having to explain much. He witnessed firsthand how I would get anxious before family gatherings, how calls with my father often left me depleted. He noticed how I would apologize excessively for the smallest things, a habit formed from years of walking on eggshells around Amber and Dad. When Michael proposed, it was during a weekend trip to coastal Maine. We were walking along a rocky beach at sunset when he stopped, took both my hands in his, and told me that I was the strongest, kindest person he'd ever known. He said he admired how I continued to open my heart despite the hurts I'd experienced, how I never let disappointment harden me. Then he knelt on one knee, pulled out a simple but elegant ring, and asked me to marry him. I said yes immediately, tears streaming down my face. For once, I wasn't thinking about my family's reaction or how Amber might try to diminish this joy. I was simply present in the most perfect moment of my life, with the person who saw me clearly and loved me completely. On the drive back to Boston, reality began to creep in. How would I tell my family? Would Dad be happy for me, or would he find some way to compare my engagement to something Amber had done? Would Amber find a way to turn this milestone into another opportunity to hurt me? I pushed these thoughts away, determined not to let my past family dynamics overshadow this new chapter of my life. Michael squeezed my hand as if reading my thoughts. "Whatever happens with your family," he said, "we're starting our own family now. One built on mutual respect and genuine love." I held on to those words like a lifeline in the weeks that followed. Little did I know how much I would need that reassurance as our wedding plans unfolded. We decided to host a small engagement dinner at my apartment before sharing the news with my family. My closest friends from the hospital gathered around my dining table, which I had decorated with white candles and fresh flowers. Michael brought champagne, and we toasted to our future together amid the genuine excitement of people who truly cared about our happiness. Sarah, my best friend since nursing school and now my designated maid of honor, hugged me tightly after dinner. "I'm so happy for you," she whispered. "You deserve this joy." But as the evening wound down and our friends departed, anxiety crept back in. I sat on my couch, staring at my phone, working up the courage to call my father. "Just do it quickly," like ripping off a Band-Aid, Michael suggested, sitting beside me. I nodded, took a deep breath and dialed. Dad answered on the fourth ring, sounding distracted. "Dad? Do you have a minute? I have some news to share." "Sure, Jesse, what's up?" I could hear a sports game playing in the background. "Michael and I are engaged. We're getting married next June." I tried to infuse my voice with excitement, hoping it would be contagious. There was a pause, then, "Well, that's nice. Congratulations. Have you told your sister yet?" No exclamation of joy. No questions about the proposal or the ring. Just an immediate pivot to Amber. I felt Michael's hand on my back, steadying me. "Not yet." "I wanted to tell you first," I replied, trying to keep disappointment from coloring my voice. "You should call her soon. You know how she feels when she's the last to know things." I ended the call shortly after, promising to send him some dates for dinner so he could meet Michael properly, though they had already met twice before. The call with my mother went much differently. She squealed with delight when I told her, asking for every detail about the proposal. She wanted to see pictures of the ring, asked about our preliminary wedding plans, and expressed how much she liked Michael based on the times they'd spoken via video call. "I'm booking my flight as soon as you set a date," she promised. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Calling Amber was the hardest. I procrastinated for 2 days before finally dialing her number on my lunch break at the hospital. "Jessica," she answered flatly. "This is unexpected." I shared my news, trying to sound casual, as if I weren't bracing for a negative reaction. To my surprise, her initial response seemed positive. "Wow, you're actually getting married? Good for you." For a moment, I allowed myself to hope that perhaps this milestone might bridge the gap between us. Maybe my wedding could be the fresh start our relationship needed. Then came the subtle dig. I guess some men don't mind settling for the serious type. I let it slide, focusing instead on extending an olive branch. We're thinking about a June wedding next year. I'd really love it if you could be there. Next June? I'll have to check my calendar. You know how busy things get at work. Amber had recently started a new job in event planning, her third career change in 2 years. The conversation ended with her promising to call me back about getting together soon. It wasn't the warm, sisterly reaction I'd secretly hoped for, but it wasn't outright hostility either. I counted it as a win. A week later, Michael and I drove to my father's house for dinner. I had spent the morning cooking lasagna, my dad's favorite, and was carrying it carefully to the front door when Amber's sleek black car pulled into the driveway behind us. "Did you invite her?" Michael whispered. I shook my head, my stomach instantly nodding. Dad must have. Amber approached, designer sunglasses perched on her head, wearing an outfit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Surprise. Dad mentioned you were coming over, so I thought I'd join the family dinner." She air-kissed my cheek, then gave Michael a once-over. "Still with this one, huh? He must be special." Dad welcomed us all inside, seeming particularly pleased that Amber had joined us. Throughout dinner, every time Michael or I tried to discuss wedding plans, the conversation somehow veered back to Amber, her new job, her recent vacation, a party she had attended where she met a minor celebrity. "So we're looking at venues next weekend," I said during a rare lull in Amber's monologue about her workplace drama. "That's nice," Dad replied before turning to Amber. "How did that big interview go yesterday? The event planning position for that tech company?" "It went amazingly," Amber gushed. "They practically offered me the job on the spot. They said my creative vision was exactly what they're looking for." And just like that, my wedding was forgotten again. On the drive home, I was uncharacteristically quiet. Michael reached over and squeezed my hand. "You okay?" "Not really," I admitted. "Did you notice how neither of them asked a single question about our wedding?" Amber completely dominated the conversation, and Dad just encouraged her. "I noticed," Michael said gently. "But you know what? Their reaction doesn't change how I feel about marrying you. It doesn't change our plans or our future together." His words comforted me, but the hurt lingered. Why couldn't my family just be happy for me, without conditions or complications? The following week, I asked Amber to meet me for coffee, determined to make one more attempt at improving our relationship before the wedding planning went into full swing. We met at a small cafe halfway between our apartments. To my surprise, Amber was already there when I arrived, scrolling through her phone with a large latte in front of her. "I ordered for you," she said, nodding toward a cup across the table. "Almond milk latte with cinnamon, right?" I was touched that she remembered my usual order. "Yes, thank you." For the next hour, we had what felt like our first real conversation in years. Amber asked about my work at the hospital, seemed genuinely interested in how Michael had proposed, and even offered some suggestions for wedding venues she had encountered through her event planning work. Encouraged by this unexpected pleasantness, I took a deep breath and said, "Amber, I know things haven't always been easy between us, but I'd really like to change that. Having you involved in my wedding would mean a lot to me. Would you consider being one of my bridesmaids?" Amber's eyes widened slightly, and for a moment, I feared I had overstepped. Then she smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "I'd like that, Jessica. Thank you for asking me." As we parted ways outside the cafe, she hugged me, an actual hug, not the stiff, obligatory kind we had exchanged at holidays for years. "This will be good for us," she said. A fresh start. I practically floated home, filled with hope that my wedding might actually help heal our fractured family. For once, I allowed myself to envision a perfect day with everyone I loved celebrating together. No tension, no drama, just joy. In retrospect, I should have known better. The calm before the storm is often just that, a deceptive peace before chaos erupts. The initial wedding planning went smoothly. Michael and I secured a beautiful venue for June 15th, a renovated barn with exposed beams and twinkling lights on the outskirts of Boston. We chose a color scheme of sage green and dusty blue, sent out save-the-date cards to our guest list, and I asked Sarah and 4 other close friends to be my bridesmaids, along with Amber. I created a group text for all the bridesmaids to coordinate meetings and dress shopping. The first hint of trouble came when I scheduled our initial get-together at a brunch spot downtown. Everyone confirmed, except Amber, who texted 15 minutes before we were supposed to meet. Emergency at work. Can't make it. Fill me in later. I was disappointed but tried not to read too much into it. Event planning could be unpredictable, after all. Sarah gave me a knowing look when I explained Amber's absence, but neither of us said what we were thinking. My mother flew in from California the following month for a weekend of dress shopping. I was ecstatic to have her there and invited all my bridesmaids, including Amber, to join us at the bridal boutique I had carefully selected. The night before our appointment, Amber called to cancel. One of our major clients is having a crisis with their product launch event. I have to go into the office tomorrow to fix it. You understand, right? Work comes first. It's Saturday, I pointed out. And we've had this appointment scheduled for weeks. That's the event industry for you, Amber replied, sounding not at all apologetic. It's not a 9-to-5 job. Some of us have demanding careers. The implied criticism stung. My work as a pediatric nurse was plenty demanding, often emotionally draining, but I had requested this day off weeks in advance because it was important to me. Maybe you could come after the appointment? We're going to lunch afterward, I suggested. I don't think so. This could take all day. Have fun with Mom, though. The dress shopping experience was wonderful despite Amber's absence. My mother teared up when I found the one an A-line gown with delicate lace sleeves and subtle beading that caught the light when I moved. Sarah and my other bridesmaids were supportive and enthusiastic, helping me select accessories and discussing hairstyle options. That evening, while scrolling through Instagram before bed, I froze at the sight of a photo posted just 2 hours earlier. It showed Amber with 2 friends I didn't recognize, cocktail glasses raised, clearly at some rooftop bar downtown. The caption read, "Saturday vibes with my girls #NowOrCalPlay." I stared at the phone, hurt and anger battling within me. She had lied about working. Blatantly lied to avoid spending time with me and our mother on an important day. When I called her the next morning, she answered with obvious irritation in her voice. "It's not even 9 a.m. on a Sunday, Jessica. What's so urgent?" "I saw your Instagram post," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You weren't working yesterday. You were out with friends." There was a pause before she replied, "So you're monitoring my social media now?" The work thing wrapped up early and I needed to decompress. Am I not allowed to have a life outside of your wedding? That's not the point, Amber. You lied to me. Oh my God, you're being such a bridezilla already. This is exactly why I didn't want to come. Everything has to be about you and your perfect wedding and your perfect fiancé. The conversation devolved from there, ending with Amber hanging up on me after accusing me of always playing the victim. I tried to involve my father more in the wedding planning, hoping his participation might help bridge the growing tension. I invited him to lunch and brought along a folder with venue photos, menu options, and information about the rehearsal dinner, which traditionally the groom's family organized, but Michael's parents had passed away years ago. Dad seemed distracted throughout lunch, checking his phone frequently and offering only non-committal responses to my questions about his preferences. "Whatever you think is best, Jesse," he said repeatedly. When his phone buzzed yet again, he actually smiled at the screen, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him that day. "Amber's planning something important," he said, finally looking up at me. "She's being very mysterious about it, but she says it's going to be spectacular." "What kind of something?" I asked, a vague unease settling in my stomach. "Not sure yet. Some kind of event. You know how creative she is with these things." I did know. I also knew that Amber rarely did anything without an ulterior motive, especially if it might impact me. As the weeks passed, my anxiety about Amber's behavior grew. She missed 2 more bridesmaid meetings, claiming work conflicts both times. She hadn't ordered her dress by the deadline I'd given all the bridesmaids, forcing me to follow up repeatedly. When she finally did order it, she chose a size too small, which would inevitably lead to alterations drama closer to the wedding. Sarah voiced her concerns after our third bridesmaid meeting without Amber. "I don't want to overstep," she said carefully, "but are you sure Amber is committed to being in your wedding? She hasn't participated in anything so far." "She's just busy with work," I replied automatically, the excuse feeling hollow even to my own ears. The first concrete sign that something was seriously wrong came from an unexpected source. My phone rang one evening with a number I didn't recognize. "Jessica? This is Linda Harper, your father's cousin. I'm calling about June 15th. Linda wasn't particularly close to our family, but she had always been kind to me at the few family gatherings where our paths crossed. "Yes, the wedding invitations should be going out next week," I told her. "You're definitely on our guest list." "That's actually why I'm calling, dear. I received an invitation today, but it wasn't for your wedding. It was for Amber's birthday celebration, on the same day." I'm confused about which event I'm supposed to attend. My blood ran cold. Amber is planning a birthday party on June 15th? Are you sure that's the date on the invitation? Positive. I have it right in front of me. It says Amber Mitchell's 30th birthday extravaganza, and the date is definitely June 15th. I thought perhaps your wedding had been postponed or there was some sort of joint celebration planned. After assuring Linda that no, there was no joint celebration, and yes, my wedding was still happening on June 15th, I hung up and immediately called my cousin Tyler, who was closer to Amber than I was. "Yeah, she's planning some big birthday thing," he confirmed. "Sent out invitations last week." "I figured you knew about it. Seemed weird to schedule it the same day as your wedding, but you know Amber." I did know Amber. And now I knew exactly what she had been planning all along. The cream-colored envelope arrived in my mailbox 3 days later. I recognized Amber's handwriting immediately, the looping, oversized script spelling out my name and address. For a moment, I entertained the fantasy that perhaps this was some kind of peace offering, maybe a bridal shower invitation or a heartfelt letter of apology for her recent behavior. I should have known better. Inside was an elaborately designed invitation on thick cardstock. Gold foil lettering announced, "You're invited to Amber Mitchell's 30th birthday extravaganza." And there, in the same shimmering gold, was the date, June 15th, 2023, my wedding day. The invitation detailed a full-day celebration at an upscale venue downtown, beginning with a champagne brunch at 11, exactly when my ceremony was scheduled to start, followed by spa treatments, a dinner cruise on Boston Harbor, and concluding with a night of dancing at one of the city's most exclusive clubs. My hands shook as I read and reread the invitation. This wasn't a coincidence or a misunderstanding. This was deliberate sabotage. Amber had orchestrated an all-day, competing event on my wedding day, inviting many of the same family members and mutual friends who would now have to choose which event to attend. I called Amber immediately. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. I sent a text, "We need to talk about this invitation. Call me ASAP." 20 minutes later, my phone chimed with a response. "Nothing to talk about. It's my 30th birthday, and I'm celebrating it." "On my wedding day?" I texted back. "You knew the date. You're a bridesmaid." "Actually, I forgot it was the same day when I started planning. Too late to change everything now. Venues are booked, invitations are out." My fingers flew across the screen. "You did not forget. You've been in the bridesmaid group chat where we discuss June 15th constantly. You have a save-the-date card. You're lying." The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before her reply came through. "Not everything is about you and your wedding, Jessica. Some of us have our own lives and milestones to celebrate." The text exchange devolved from there, with Amber alternating between claiming she had legitimately forgotten the date and suggesting that I was being selfish for not understanding the importance of her 30th birthday. When I pointed out that her actual birthday was in August, she responded that no one does summer parties in Boston because everyone who matters is in the Hamptons or on the Cape. By the end of our exchange, I was shaking with anger and hurt. But the final blow came when Amber wrote, "Besides, Dad already RSVP'd yes to my party. Guess he made his choice." I sat in stunned silence, staring at those words until my vision blurred with tears. My father had already committed to attending Amber's party instead of my wedding, without even talking to me first. I grabbed my keys and drove to my father's house, tears streaming down my face the entire way. He answered the door in his weekend attire of worn jeans and a Patriots sweatshirt, surprise registering on his face at my unexpected visit and obvious distress. "Jesse? What's wrong?" I thrust Amber's invitation at him. "Did you RSVP to this? Are you choosing Amber's fake birthday party over walking your daughter down the aisle?" His expression shifted from surprise to discomfort as he ushered me inside. The familiar living room where I'd grown up now felt like hostile territory. "Let's sit down and talk about this calmly," he said, avoiding my direct question. "There's nothing calm about this situation, Dad. Amber deliberately scheduled her birthday celebration on my wedding day. She's trying to force people to choose between us, and apparently, you've already made your choice." Dad sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "It's not that simple, Jesse. Amber explained everything to me. She had already put down non-refundable deposits before she realized the date conflict. And she feels that you deliberately chose her birthday month for your wedding to overshadow her. Her birthday is in August." I nearly shouted. "August 7th. And she knows exactly what she's doing. She had the save-the-date card on her refrigerator when I visited her apartment last month. She knew." I pulled up the bridesmaid group chat on my phone and showed him multiple messages where the June 15th date was clearly mentioned, with Amber participating in those very conversations. "Look at the timing, Dad. She booked her venue 2 days after our save-the-dates went out. This is deliberate." Dad looked uncomfortable, but still hesitant to take a stand. "You know how Amber can be with dates and details. She's more of a big-picture person. Stop making excuses for her." My voice broke. "For once in your life, can you please see what's happening? She has been trying to hurt me our entire lives, and you have never once protected me from it. And now, on what should be the most important day of my life, you're choosing her again." "I'm not choosing anyone," he protested weakly. "I'm just trying to find a solution that works for everyone. Maybe you could move your wedding to another date? The venue might have a cancellation policy." I stared at him in disbelief. "You want me to change my wedding date because Amber deliberately scheduled a competing event? After we've booked everything, sent save the dates, and have family flying in from across the country? I'm just suggesting that you be the bigger person here, Jesse. You've always been the more reasonable one." And there it was, the familiar refrain that had defined our family dynamic for as long as I could remember. Amber could act however she wanted, and I was expected to accommodate her, to understand, to be the bigger person. "Dad," I said, my voice now calm with the clarity of realization, "I need you to be honest with me right now. Are you going to walk me down the aisle on June 15th, or are you going to Amber's party?" He couldn't meet my eyes. "I don't think I can be in 2 places at once, Jessica." "That's not an answer. Which event will you be attending?" After a painful silence, he said, "Amber says this milestone birthday is really important to her. She's been planning it for months. And she's my daughter too." I felt something break inside me, the last thread of hope that my father would ever put me first, would ever see through Amber's manipulations, would ever be the dad I deserved. "I'm your daughter too," I whispered, gathering my purse and standing up. "But I've never been enough for you, have I?" I walked out of his house, ignoring his calls for me to come back and talk more. In my car, I allowed myself to sob openly, grief washing over me in waves. Not just grief for losing my father's presence at my wedding, but grief for the relationship I'd always wanted but never truly had. I don't remember the drive from my father's house to Michael's apartment. Somehow, I navigated through Boston traffic on autopilot, tears blurring my vision. I called Michael from the parking lot, unable to make it up to his unit without breaking down completely. "I'm coming down," he said immediately, concern evident in his voice. Moments later, he was opening my car door, kneeling beside me, his steady presence the only thing keeping me anchored as I poured out the whole story. The invitation, the text exchange with Amber, my father's betrayal. Michael listened without interrupting, his expression growing increasingly troubled. When I finally fell silent, emotionally exhausted, he took both my hands in his. "I'm so sorry, Jess. What they're doing isn't fair. It isn't right." His voice was gentle, but there was an underlying anger I rarely heard from him. "What do you need right now? What can I do?" "Just don't let go," I whispered. He helped me up to his apartment, made me tea, and sat with me on his couch as I called my mother. Her outrage was immediate and validating. "He's what?" she exclaimed when I told her about Dad's choice. "Oh, Jessica, honey. I'm so sorry. This is unacceptable behavior from both of them." "What should I do, Mom?" I asked, feeling like a lost child rather than a woman about to be married. "First, you take some time to process your feelings. Then we make sure your wedding day is everything you deserve, with or without them." Her voice softened. "Do you want me to fly out early? I can be there tomorrow." The offer was tempting, but I shook my head even though she couldn't see me. "No, that's not necessary. I have Michael here and Sarah." "But thank you." After we hung up, Michael and I discussed our options. Should we change the date after all, to avoid the conflict? Should we scale back to a small ceremony with just our closest friends? Should we elope? "Let's sleep on it," Michael suggested. "These are big decisions, and you're emotionally raw right now. Whatever we decide, we'll decide together." I called in sick to work the next day, something I rarely did. I couldn't face the cheerful chaos of the pediatric ward, couldn't summon the energy to comfort worried parents when my own heart was so broken. I stayed in bed well past noon, alternating between crying and staring numbly at the ceiling. Sarah came over after her shift, armed with ice cream and wine. "Michael called me," she explained, letting herself in with the spare key I'd given her years ago. "Talk to me, Jess." I recounted the whole miserable situation again, watching Sarah's expression shift from concern to indignation. "Your sister is a piece of work," she said finally, pouring us each a glass of wine. "And I'm sorry, but your dad is being a coward." "What am I supposed to do now?" I asked her the same question I'd been asking myself all day. "Half the family will probably go to her party instead of my wedding." "Then they don't deserve to be at your wedding," Sarah said firmly. "Look, I know this hurts. It's supposed to be your day and your family should be there. But maybe it's time to redefine what family means to you." Sarah organized an emergency bridesmaid meeting, minus Amber, of course. The girls rallied around me, offering practical and emotional support. They volunteered to handle tasks I'd been managing, made lists of what needed to be addressed, and reminded me repeatedly that my wedding would be beautiful regardless of who attended. My colleagues from the hospital, upon learning what had happened, showered me with support. Cards appeared in my locker. Patients' parents who had grown fond of me over years of care offered words of encouragement. Dr. Reynolds, the chief of pediatrics who rarely showed emotion, stopped me in the hallway to say, "Family isn't always blood, Mitchell. Remember that." A week after the invitation incident, my Uncle Robert, my father's older brother, called me. "Your Aunt Martha and I received both invitations," he said without preamble. "We'll be at your wedding, Jessica. And if your father won't walk you down the aisle, I'd be honored to do it." His offer brought fresh tears to my eyes. "Thank you, Uncle Robert. That means so much to me." "For what it's worth," he added, "I've already told your father what I think of his choice. Some of us Mitchell men actually have backbones." The conversation with Uncle Robert was a turning point. It made me realize I needed professional help to process everything I was feeling. I scheduled an appointment with a therapist, Dr. Karima Jenkins, who specialized in family dynamics. In her peaceful office with its blue walls and comfortable chairs, I unraveled the complex emotions I'd been carrying not just since the invitation incident, but for decades. "I've spent my whole life trying to earn my father's approval," I admitted during our second session. "Nothing was ever good enough. And now, when it matters most, he's chosen Amber again. Dr. Jenkins nodded thoughtfully. "Have you considered that this pattern might affect other relationships in your life?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "When we grow up constantly seeking approval that never comes, we often carry that need into other relationships. We become people pleasers, always putting others' needs before our own, afraid that if we assert our own needs, we'll be abandoned." Her words hit with the force of recognition. How many times had I apologized when I wasn't wrong? How often had I taken extra shifts to accommodate colleagues, even when I was exhausted? How frequently did I defer to others' preferences rather than expressing my own? Even with Michael, I realized aloud, I sometimes catch myself worrying that if I disagree with him or don't meet his expectations, he'll stop loving me. And how does Michael respond when you do express your needs or opinions? Dr. Jenkins asked. I thought about it. He listens. He values what I have to say. He's nothing like my father. That's an important recognition, she said. The patterns we develop in our families of origin don't have to define our futures. But first, we have to see them clearly. Over the next few weeks, therapy helped me work through my grief and anger. I began to understand that my father's inability to prioritize me wasn't a reflection of my worth, but of his limitations. I couldn't change him or Amber, but I could change how much power I gave their opinions. Meanwhile, wedding planning continued. Michael and I had a heart-to-heart about what the day meant to us. I don't care who's there or what traditions we follow, he told me, holding me close on our couch one evening. I just want to marry you, Jessica Mitchell. Everything else is details. Even the cake? I teased, finding humor again for the first time in weeks. Well, the cake is non-negotiable, he replied with a wink. A man has his priorities. We decided to proceed with our original wedding plans, making just a few meaningful changes. Instead of my father walking me down the aisle, both my mother and Uncle Robert would accompany me, a symbol of the family who chose to support me. We added a unity candle ceremony to represent our chosen family coming together. And we wrote our own vows, focusing on the future we were building rather than the past we came from. I sent my father one final message. The door is open if you change your mind. I would still love to have you at my wedding, but I'm proceeding either way. His response was frustratingly vague. I hope you understand the difficult position I'm in. I love you both. It wasn't the answer I wanted, but I was learning to accept what I couldn't change. 2 weeks before the wedding, we learned through family channels that Amber's party attendance was looking sparse. Many relatives had chosen my wedding over her manufactured celebration, and several friends had questioned her motives in scheduling the competing event. I took no joy in this news. In fact, I made a conscious decision to stop checking social media, stop asking about Amber's plans, stop giving her drama any more space in my head. For the first time in my life, I was placing firm boundaries around my relationship with my sister and father, protecting my own happiness. The night before my final dress fitting, my mother flew in from California. As she helped me into my gown at the boutique, adjusting the delicate lace sleeves, she looked at me with tears in her eyes. You look absolutely radiant, sweetheart. I am so proud of the woman you've become, your compassion, your strength, your resilience. Michael is a lucky man. In the mirror, I saw not just my reflection, but the journey I had taken. The hurt little girl seeking approval had become a woman who understood her own worth. As I stood there, my phone chimed with a text message. My mother retrieved it from my purse and glanced at the screen, her expression changing subtly. It's from your father, she said, handing me the phone. The message was brief. Can we talk? I'll be at the coffee shop near your apartment tomorrow morning at 9. After the dress fitting, I threw myself into wedding planning with renewed purpose and energy. The initial pain of my father's and sister's betrayal had evolved into something else, determination to create a day that truly reflected Michael and me, not the family dynamics that had shadowed me for so long. My mother and I, along with Sarah and the other bridesmaids, gathered at my apartment for what I called a wedding reimagining session. Over wine and takeout, we spread mood boards, vendor contracts, and timeline drafts across my living room floor. I've been thinking, I said, looking at the ceremony outline, I want to change some things to make the day more meaningful, more reflective of who we are and the family we're choosing to create. The traditional father-daughter dance was replaced with a family dance where Michael and I would invite all our guests to join us, symbolizing our community of support. We added a memory table with photos of Michael's parents and other loved ones who couldn't be with us. I selected readings that spoke of chosen family and creating new traditions. What about the rehearsal dinner? My mother asked gently. That was supposed to be at your father's house. Already handled, Sarah interjected. The hospital administrators took up a collection when they heard what happened. They've booked a private room at that Italian place Jessica loves. I was overwhelmed by the generosity. They did that for me. You've touched a lot of lives, Jess, Sarah said simply. People want to support you. In the weeks that followed, I wrote heartfelt letters to relatives explaining the situation truthfully but without bitterness. I didn't ask them to choose my wedding over Amber's party. I simply expressed how much their presence would mean to me on this important day. The responses were overwhelmingly supportive. Cousin after cousin, aunt after aunt, family friends who had known me since childhood, all confirmed they would be attending my wedding. Many expressed disapproval of Amber's tactics, though I never asked them to take sides. My father's sister, Aunt Patricia, called me directly. I want you to know that many of us see through Amber's manipulation, Jessica. We always have. Your father is blind to it, but the rest of us aren't. Her words were validating in a way I hadn't expected. For so long, I had wondered if I was overreacting, if perhaps I was the difficult one. Hearing that others had observed the same dynamics reassured me that I wasn't crazy, wasn't imagining the years of subtle undermining. I sent my father one last message after our coffee shop meeting, where he had once again expressed being torn between his daughters. Dad, I love you, and the door remains open. I would be overjoyed to have you walk me down the aisle. But I need you to understand that this is my wedding day, a once-in-a-lifetime event. Amber can celebrate her birthday any day. She chose my wedding day deliberately. If you can't see that, I can't change your mind. But know that I'm proceeding with my plans either way, and I'll be surrounded by people who choose to be there for me. His response was frustratingly ambiguous. I need more time to think about everything. I hope you can understand my position. Rather than dwelling on his indecision, I focused on creating new traditions for my wedding entrance. My mother would walk me partway down the aisle, then Uncle Robert would join us for the final approach to where Michael would be waiting. It wasn't what I had always envisioned, but there was something powerful about being escorted by people who had chosen, unequivocally, to support me. A month before the wedding, my colleagues at the hospital surprised me with a bridal shower in the staff lounge. They had decorated with streamers and balloons, ordered a cake, and pulled together to buy us a weekend getaway at a bed and breakfast in Vermont. Dr. Reynolds organized it, Sarah whispered to me as I wiped away tears of gratitude. He said, and I quote, "Mitchell deserves some damn happiness after everything she does for these kids." Through therapy with Dr. Jenkins, I was learning to find peace with the situation. We practiced mindfulness techniques to help me stay present when anxiety about the wedding threatened to overwhelm me. We discussed how to maintain boundaries with my father and Amber after the wedding. And we explored what kind of relationship, if any, I wanted with them moving forward. Family estrangement is sometimes viewed as a failure, Dr. Jenkins said during one session, but it can also be an act of self-preservation. You get to decide what role these relationships play in your life going forward. I was selecting special music and readings for the ceremony that celebrated chosen family and new beginnings. For the processional, I chose Pachelbel's Canon in D, but for the recessional, the moment when Michael and I would walk back down the aisle as husband and wife, I selected an upbeat, joyful song that spoke of new beginnings and leaving the past behind. 2 weeks before the wedding, I learned through my cousin Tyler that Amber's party attendance was looking much smaller than she had anticipated. Many family members had declined her invitation, and even some of her friends had questioned her motives in scheduling the competing event. She's pretty upset about it, Tyler told me. Keeps saying everyone is taking your side and it's not fair. I made a conscious decision not to engage with this information. I stopped checking social media for updates about Amber's plans. I asked family members not to bring me reports about her party. I was reclaiming my mental space, refusing to let her drama occupy any more of my thoughts as my wedding day approached. My final dress fitting was a special moment with my mother. As the seamstress made the last adjustments to my gown, Mom helped me try on my veil and the pearl earrings that had belonged to her grandmother. "You look absolutely radiant," she said, her eyes shining with tears. "I am so proud of the woman you've become, Jessica. Your strength, your compassion, your resilience in the face of difficulty, these are the qualities that will make you not just a beautiful bride, but an amazing wife and, someday, if you choose, a wonderful mother. We shared a tearful embrace, this woman who had always believed in me, always supported me, even from across the country. The night before the wedding, after the rehearsal dinner, I returned to my apartment to find a text message from my father. "I'll be there tomorrow. We need to talk before the ceremony." I woke on my wedding day to sunlight streaming through my bedroom curtains. For a moment, I lay still, taking in the significance of the day ahead. Despite everything that had happened, a sense of calm had settled over me. Today I would marry Michael, the man who had stood steadfastly by my side through all the family drama, who loved me completely and unconditionally. My mother knocked softly before entering with a cup of coffee. "Good morning, bride," she said, sitting on the edge of my bed. "How are you feeling?" "Ready," I replied, and I meant it. Whatever happened with my father today, whether he showed up or not, I was ready to move forward. The getting ready process was filled with laughter and joy as my bridesmaids arrived at the hotel suite we had booked near the venue. Sarah orchestrated everything perfectly, ensuring I remained stress-free as hair and makeup artists worked their magic. Champagne flowed, music played, and the atmosphere was exactly what I had always hoped for on my wedding day. "I have something for you," Sarah said quietly as the others chatted amongst themselves. She handed me a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with the words, "Chosen Family," engraved on a small charm. "We all pitched in," she explained, nodding toward the other bridesmaids. "Because we chose you and you chose us, and that's what really matters." I blinked back tears as she fastened it around my wrist, careful not to ruin my makeup. "Thank you," I whispered. "For everything." My mother helped me into my dress, her hands steady as she fastened each tiny button down the back. As she adjusted my veil, she took my hands in hers. "Jessica, I know there have been times when you felt I wasn't there for you enough after the divorce. Moving to California created a physical distance that sometimes felt emotional too. But I want you to know that you have always been my priority, my heart, my greatest accomplishment. Watching you navigate these difficult family dynamics with such grace has only made me prouder to be your mother." We embraced carefully, mindful of my dress and her outfit. No further words were needed. We understood each other perfectly in that moment. The photographer captured these precious getting-ready moments. The bridesmaids helping each other with jewelry, my mother wiping away a tear, Sarah making last-minute adjustments to my veil. These were the women who had truly been there for me, consistently and lovingly, and I was grateful to have these memories preserved. When it was time to leave for the venue, my Uncle Robert arrived at the hotel suite, dashing in his tuxedo. "Ready to do this, kiddo?" he asked, offering his arm. As we arrived at the renovated barn venue, with its white wooden exterior and surrounding gardens in full June bloom, the wedding coordinator approached me with an unexpected message. "Your father is here. He's waiting in the side room and would like to speak with you before the ceremony." My heart raced. I looked at my mother and Uncle Robert, who had been prepared to walk me down the aisle together. "Do you want to see him?" my mother asked, no judgment in her voice. I nodded. "Give me a few minutes." I found my father pacing nervously in the small room off the main entrance. He turned when I entered, his eyes widening at the sight of me in my wedding dress. "Jessie," he breathed. "You look beautiful." "Thank you," I said, standing just inside the doorway. "You wanted to talk?" He nodded, gesturing to the chairs, but I remained standing. I didn't want to risk wrinkling my dress, and honestly, I wasn't sure how long this conversation would take. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "I should have been here for you from the beginning." No questions, no hesitation. I waited, not rushing to fill the silence. "After you left that day, several people called me, your Aunt Patricia, Uncle Robert, even some cousins. They all said the same thing, that I was making a terrible mistake." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I'd seen countless times growing up. "But it wasn't until your mother called that I really started to listen." This surprised me. "Mom called you?" He nodded. "She didn't yell or accuse. She just asked me one question. When you look back on this day years from now, which choice will you regret more, missing your daughter's wedding or missing your other daughter's party? I made a mental note to thank my mother later. And then yesterday, he continued, I was helping Amber with some last-minute party details, and I overheard her on the phone with the venue. She was confirming the reservation date, and she specifically said, yes, June 15th, the same day as my sister's wedding. That's correct. He looked up at me, realization evident in his eyes. She knew exactly what she was doing. She deliberately chose your wedding day. And I've been making excuses for her behavior for years, haven't I? It was the acknowledgement I had waited for my entire life, recognition of the dynamic that had shaped our family for so long. But standing there in my wedding dress, moments away from walking down the aisle, I found that it didn't matter as much as I thought it would. I had already made peace with who my father was, with his limitations and blind spots. Yes, you have, I said simply. But today isn't about the past. It's about the future Michael and I are building together. I want to be part of that future, my father said, his voice catching. If you'll still have me. I told Amber I wouldn't be at her party. I'm here for your wedding, Jesse. All day, wherever you want me. I considered his words, the sincerity in his eyes. Uncle Robert is here to walk me down the aisle, I said. He stepped up when I needed someone. But I took a deep breath, making a decision in that moment. Maybe you could both walk me down? One on each side. Relief and joy spread across my father's face. I would be honored. When I returned to the bridal party, I explained the situation to my mother and Uncle Robert. My uncle immediately agreed to share the honor, showing the generosity of spirit that had made him such a steady presence in my life. Are you sure about this? My mother asked privately, concern in her eyes. I'm sure, I replied. Not for him, but for me. I'm choosing forgiveness and new beginnings today. She squeezed my hand, understanding. The ceremony was everything I had dreamed it would be. As the music began and guests turned in their seats, I stood at the back of the barn with my father on my left and Uncle Robert on my right. My mother had already been escorted to her seat in the front row, beaming with pride. Ready? My father whispered. I nodded, taking a deep breath as we began our walk. Michael waited at the altar, his eyes finding mine immediately, his smile so full of love it made my heart swell. In that moment, all the family drama faded away. This was about us. Michael and me, the life we were choosing together. The ceremony itself was deeply personal. We had written our own vows, Michael's bringing tears to my eyes as he promised to always be my safe harbor, to create with me a family built on mutual respect and unwavering support. I promised in return to approach our marriage with openness and honesty, to never let past hurts dictate our future together. Today, I choose you. We both said at different points in our vows, the word choose carrying special significance for us both. At the reception, my father gave a toast that acknowledged, subtly but clearly, his past failings. Jessica has always been the strong one, he said, raising his glass. Even when I couldn't see clearly, she never lost sight of what matters most: love, integrity, and choosing joy even in difficult circumstances. Michael, you're getting not just a beautiful bride, but the most resilient, compassionate woman I know. I'm grateful to be here witnessing the beginning of your journey together. Throughout the evening, several relatives mentioned that they had briefly stopped by Amber's party before coming to the wedding. Apparently, the attendance was sparse, and Amber was visibly upset by how many people had chosen my wedding over her celebration. But I found that I didn't care anymore. Her attempts to hurt me no longer had power over my happiness. I was dancing with my husband, surrounded by people who truly loved us, celebrating the beginning of our life together. Late in the evening, as Michael and I prepared to depart for our hotel before leaving for our honeymoon in Hawaii the next day, my father approached me for one final conversation. I spoke to Amber earlier, he said. She's angry that I came to your wedding. But for the first time, I didn't try to appease her. I told her that her behavior was unacceptable and that she needs to take responsibility for her choices if she wants to maintain relationships with the family. I nodded, appreciating his words, but no longer needing them for my own happiness. I hope you two can work things out, I said sincerely. But I'm also going to maintain some boundaries going forward. I can't keep trying to have a relationship with someone who actively tries to hurt me. I understand, he said. And I'll respect whatever boundaries you set. Michael and I departed amid a shower of rose petals, climbing into the vintage car that would take us to our hotel. As we drove away, I felt a profound sense of freedom from old family patterns, from the need for approval, from the weight of trying to earn love that should have been freely given. 6 months after our wedding, we hosted a small dinner party at our new home for Thanksgiving. My mother was there, having flown in from California. So was my father, who had been making consistent efforts to rebuild our relationship. Uncle Robert and Aunt Patricia joined us, along with Sarah and her new boyfriend. Amber was not present. We had exchanged a few tentative text messages in the months following the wedding, her tone uncharacteristically subdued. In the most recent one, she had suggested meeting for coffee to talk about things. I hadn't responded yet, unsure if I was ready for that step. As we sat around our dining table, sharing food and stories, I caught Michael's eye across the table. He winked at me, a small gesture that conveyed so much: his love, his pride in how far we'd come, his partnership in building this new family dynamic. The healing process wasn't complete, and perhaps it never would be entirely. But I had learned that family trauma doesn't have to define your future relationships. That setting boundaries isn't selfish, but necessary. That forgiveness doesn't always mean allowing people to hurt you again. Most importantly, I had learned that the family you choose, the one you build with intention and love, can be stronger than the one you're born into. So if you're watching this and struggling with your own complicated family dynamics, especially as you plan a wedding or other major life event, know that you're not alone. Your feelings are valid, and you deserve to prioritize your own happiness. What family drama have you experienced? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to choose yourself sometimes. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you all the love and healing you deserve in your own.